One, two, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Test one, test one, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, mic, check 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Check, check, check.
Well, sort of. I got it. So City College has a campus at 25 Broadway.
Oh, so you got.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah,
nice.
I was able to sweet talk my way in with my work ID and all that. Got in and like there's like nobody. Like I would think that like more City College people would have done that. I was the only one who had that idea. And
So
like
you just watched from one of the windows?
yeah, second floor.
I used to work down there, so that's how I went to the Giants, the Giants' first ticker tape, the Yankees' last one, and the Women's World Cup.
I did Women's World Cup from my mom used to work at 120 Broadway.
Yeah. I worked at 120 Broadway briefly, but you know, for the Women's World Cup, like there was no like you got to get there early. Like we just walked out of our office and found a spot on Battery Place.
Yeah,
and,
well-
oh, there's everyone back.
This one they said it was like 2 million people.
Yeah, that was a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's see how many people actually show up. It's been so helpful for the past month.
It was? Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, we need this table over there. Can you do that?
This where? Right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks so much. Good colors.
For example, the email about this week was written by this guy.
Yeah, one more chair.
Somebody told me that they ran out of pieces. And they had to buy it. I read somewhere from Wisconsin. We don't have enough pieces.
I know, yeah, somebody was telling me that when they went to the,
Yeah.
and they said that.
Yeah, there was practically
I
nothing.
didn't know that was a thing, but apparently, now that they say, I'm like, oh,
And they was very little for them to clean up. It was like that much.
unless they also that they want that.
Could be. It's a possibility.
Right.
Thanks so much for your help. Now, forgive me if those judges.
No, I think we're good.
Good,
I
yeah, right. And
need
you,
your emails. Because I haven't been able to build, because there's no way to reach them.
8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Can I do a little earlier today? Yeah, I can keep you at the speakers again.
okay.
No problem. 1, 2, 1, 2, check.
I'm guessing that's all. Oh, yes. How many offs before the Broadway on that one?
It's probably just one, because the place is on 42nd Street.
So if you need me, just call me.
Okay, perfect, thank you
Number
so
right
much,
there.
thank you for everything.
Right? And it's being recorded.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of different views out of there, so.
Yeah.
This is like 10 minutes, 40 seconds.
Yeah, no, New World State, that would be cute.
Your roll stage actually, no, that's Queens, 6 and 7.
Technically Avenue Q is now.
Yeah, just go, well, I'll probably just remove the things on the numbers,
Yeah.
And she says, it's not true. Right. Of course it is. And respect that it's not. I mean, first of all, she involves herself in lots of programs that it's better not. I checked it in the list. But.
You got me. Thank you.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you. And I criticized you and then I took it right back. Because I said to you, I texted you and I said, Chase, let be a very nice shopping there and hostess, but nothing else. And she said, can you bring some stuff? So then when I emptied out, I said, take it all back. She was, as usual, was right on the mark and the material was that product.
Yeah, well, then Saturday was a very long day. Because first I had to go to your place,
Yeah.
code it,
Yeah.
because we need to get like up early, the baby meeting with Melissa.
Yeah, and I couldn't make that. I spoke to her. She sent me photos.
Yeah, well, the photos were.
A little girl? Yeah.
Well, the photos were taken by me.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a break, man?
Like, I go to Clarksville and get like gifts
Yeah,
to get that copy of the mail that ordered.
yeah.
From there, to the naming ceremony, then Brooklyn Pride,
Yes.
then to pub crawl, home, back to Brooklyn Pride, then to go watch the game, and then actual night.
Busy, busy.
forever, you know?
And as a result, you know, no other bills were really able to get through.
Well, some of them,
Yeah.
but that's always the case. I spend that long on the budget and the legislation is, there's not enough time.
I wonder, like, and I said that, but I wonder if that was practical with plan. That in election years, you didn't want the assembly, you didn't want the left wing of the assembly to put anything in front of her that she'd have to take a really crazy stand on.
And very practically speaking, in an election year, they wanted to end soon, so that the people who have primaries could be out in their districts there. You don't want to keep them there, you don't make them absolutely happy. So they had a choice. If you're saying no more legislation,
You didn't have, when you were in the assembly, I'm guessing, did you have any early budgets before Andrew or lunchtime?
I do remember, I can't answer that, but the first year that I was there, the whole big thing about three states living in the US. We didn't connect about it, I think it happened in August. An odd year. And I remember spending weekends in Oakland. That was awful, I didn't know anybody. What to do with myself?
Well, back then, was that when we still had the primary year?
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's, I mean, it happens, you know? So we've gotten, our next, I have to make a report on we've gotten 2 checks in the mail. Vicki told me, you know, and 2 are on the way. And I need, email addresses for any of those judges. Checks for 2 of them, but I don't have, it's my fault.
I sent you all their emails.
I didn't get it. Like I said, that you said, you know, you have to.
I know I have all their email, but you
If
just.
that's what I thought.
I can help.
Yeah, thank you. That's the rest. And I think the total bill will cost us, when we're all done, $12.70. That would bring it down to the. So those are good, right?
I like those.
Yes.
I'm never gonna be against short term. Yeah. It's such a good, like, base.
Yes.
So we get $12 on the election this year? Oh my goodness. You're gonna bankrupt us.
Well, I'm trying to be very careful about it, you know, based on, and Steve was saying, well, let the Congress meet, I think they were on.
Yeah,
Otherwise.
Come here, or, you know.
He doesn't for money. Why do you have?
Well, Karen's not gonna be here, I'll say it quickly, well, maybe we'll see it.
Where's Karen?
She's good, she's on vacation,
Yeah. This is the right place.
I think he doesn't know.
I didn't think he had, Vicky, what?
I think he should know, we should say.
No, because the early voting side is so inconvenient for me. But I'm going to.
Hi.
How are you? Good. This is my friend Norma. She works in Carrie Goldberg's law firm, and she can talk about a legislation they were talking about.
Would love to go with you, but it's a long.
So it's like we need to know a guest.
Yes. Yeah, okay. She can just, maybe
So you
her
can
name on
just
the end.
put your name and your email.
Hi.
I never complained,
I
I
heard
wasn't on the list downstairs.
Really?
Really? Maybe you'll be on this bus. Probably.
She's definitely on that list.
Yeah.
You're truly managed.
I didn't make it on the
I
way
got this
downstairs.
t-shirt.
Thank you.
Did you go this morning?
I did.
Oh, I saw you were like watching from above.
Yeah, City College has campus at Parkway. Like, it's basically,
Yeah,
yeah, I just was able to use my ID, so we talked about my
They
ID.
always voted. For early voting.
Like, the only problem was,
Mine
so like the way
They
the
don't
windows
vote.
open, it
It's
like lean out, so like,
double the distance.
I couldn't like draw any, February.
Yeah, it's a vote by law.
So when
You're just-
this becomes a district leader, doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
It was windy today.
It was, yeah.
You want to sign
You
here?
were, no,
We're signing it out.
It was like dying.
And like I was sending it to like my coworkers in Slack, you know, basically rubbing it in.
Of course, you have to.
Did you
Thanks.
I would like to say something about the
Tell me.
petition,
Yeah.
that we gave the checks, you know, and that's.
Oh, good. Okay.
this week.
Because I know I asked you.
What is the yes or no?
Jan has never had.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
That's what you know.
Yeah.
We were.
So I think, I was.
I know, I used to.
Oh, you might, okay, good, that's good. I saw Janice today, at Dog Day, and she said she was like in positive spirits. I asked her to come play with her, and she couldn't, so I have yeah, I don't really.
AVI 34764.
They were on bus.
Yeah, so they split up.
Really love it.
Great this morning. That was a lot better.
I bet.
We didn't have to settle on that. It has to be like top down a little bit. We have to wait for us to get the leader, and then for last, he would come over to reality, as if he wasn't freaking out.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you, I did.
She just said, maybe you should.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I want to say 6:45.
Oh, yeah, Joanne's here. Oh, it's 7 o'clock.
Joanne, how are you?
Talking about this election year.
I got your speaking engagement on the players, they're gonna be big time, Broadway.
I was at the next thing. No, we got out of the subway and then we were twelve.
Jan, I heard you didn't get a t-shirt. It's freaking news. Like an IM t-shirt.
Oh, I did.
Oh, we have to get you one.
Paper dues.
Yes. And there were people from us all the way back to and it was really, they couldn't see anything. And there were people above, Sigma.
Yeah, that's what I heard, yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody's there.
Well, I mean, that's, I was gonna say, I'll let you say about that. I think I was gonna do that. Everyone on the live stream. See my reaction.
Okay. Is it working? I think it's on. It looks like sorry. Okay, great. Doesn't look like there's that many people on Zoom. But it's on the calendar. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So tonight we're going to hear from a bunch of our electeds about how session went. I think we're glad it's over. And what went into the budget and what was passed in that last week or so of being able to pass legislation. And then we will also hear from Dan Goldman's campaign and various GOTV events happening over the weekend and on Monday and Tuesday. And we will also hear from Carrie Goldberg's firm about the efforts that they've been doing. And I think that is the whole program. But if there are others who, and then Matt will talk a little bit about our jazz brunch, which we are very excited about in the fall. So, oh yes, and Joan, you wanted to talk about, oh yes, petitioning, the committees on petitioning or? Oh, okay. Joan's going to give an update on accounting for the petitions, and she's also going to give an update on T-shirts because it's come to our attention that some members have not gotten their IND T-shirts, even though they've paid dues. So we must rectify this injustice immediately. Okay, so Joanne, if you'd like to start us off, we'd love to have you.
So earlier today, I was dressed in a jacket and looked much better than I do now, but it got very hot, so I changed. Oh, thank you. Really, it's very exciting. So, I can't remember whether we talked about the budget the last meeting we had, but the budget did finally close. We had about 7 days afterwards to pass a slew of legislation. So it was very sort of breakneck speed doing that. And, a lot of things that didn't get in the budget that we wanted, some things that did. A couple of things we did that matter to, constituents significantly are things like SCREE and DREE, the senior citizen rent exemption, rent increase exemption. So it basically freezes people's rents if they're senior citizen and they earn less than a certain amount of money. That eligibility was $50,000. Now it's $75,000. So that will allow many more people to have a reduction in their rent and be eligible to have their rent sort of frozen at what it is. We also provided a lot more money for social services and mental health workers. You know, one of the big challenges we've had is we have had in the city a low Medicaid reimbursement rate, which was something that was done when the prior mayor and the prior governor were having a little weenie wagging thing. And that's what happens. And so New York got less money than every other county in the state. So New York City got less money than every other county in the state since 2019. So we reversed that, which was good. We needed. It also helped plug some of the gap that the city had in the $12 billion hole they had, which then became 9 or 7 or something. But also, you know, it's hard work to do mental health work and to do social services work very often. And so people have not gotten, we haven't invested in that workforce. They haven't gotten regular raises. Many of them didn't get raises for years and years and years. So we were able to get them 2.7%, which was the cost of living, the CPI, Consumer Price Index. We had put in our one houses 4%. We really wanted to give them more. We weren't able to get that, but we did get the 2.7, which is more than the governor had proposed in her budget. We were able to get additional SNAP protections. You know, you may have heard that there's been a lot of SNAP fraud. And so we are finally getting chip-enabled SNAP cards because people are having their SNAP stolen, right? And so the other thing we did was a teen mental health first aid, which any high school, it's for 15-year-olds, can enroll in a teen mental health first aid, and the Office of Mental Health runs that. And they also train the adults in the environment, but they really give young people information about how they can address their needs, how to ask for help, but also how to help their friends. Because too often kids rely on kids, and if you're a young person, you don't know what to do with that information. You might not be able to help. This would give you some guidance to do that. I know my own granddaughter had that issue where she, one of her friends was cutting, and she was trying to help her, and it's way too much for her to be able to do. And so this is something that will actually give kids a grounding in that. So I thought that was a very good thing that we did. We are also working hard to address better, and we made some progress on this, comorbid mental illness and substance abuse disorder, right? Substance use disorder, so that they're like funded in silos, right? But many people have both issues, right? Serious mental illness that they then start self-medicating through substance use. And so we're going to be working more on that. There was a proposal to jointly license certain facilities. That didn't quite happen the way it was originally proposed, but they're working out those kinks. The other thing that I was able to do was get a competency restoration bill, 2 bills passed on this. One of the issues we have had for years is when somebody is found incompetent to stand trial, that they are sent to a psychiatric facility, a state facility, where they then get services, get restored to competency, and then end up back in jail because they haven't been able to stand trial. And of course, if we have an outstanding bail issue that never gets decided because they were incompetent, then they're in jail, and then they lose competency again. And so they have people who have been going back and forth, sometimes for years. And that is really unfair to the person because they're basically incarcerated for years, and they haven't been convicted of a crime at all, and they haven't been found, they're not competent to stand trial. So we're really shifting that whole thing and allowing the bail decisions to be made first, and people would be able to get restoration services in a more comprehensive fashion, but also outside of a prison setting. So it would be community-based restoration services. And that will make a big difference. And it will make a big difference to people being able to become competent and then stand trial. So the DA's Association the last day told me that they weren't, or actually one of the members on the other side of the aisle told me the DAs didn't like it. And I said, you know, they get to try them sooner. What's the problem? The individual DAs have said that they actually do like it. So I think the association is one thing, but the individuals are different. But it will be more efficient and more cost effective for the counties who are footing the bill for the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which is doing nobody any good. So we're changing that, and we're also passed a bill to set up a work group that will continue to monitor that and make suggestions on how to improve those services over time. The other thing we did that was we passed that was a challenge is we got a data center moratorium bill. As you know, data centers are guzzling energy everywhere in the country. It's becoming a huge issue. They do not provide jobs. There was a big data center for Amazon done in, I think it was Westchester. Anyway, they provided one job, and they got a $77 million tax write-off. Something ridiculous like that. And the fact is that they don't create jobs. So there's a sense that they do, but they don't, right? Because in fact, the data centers actually are doing the AI that is costing jobs. So they're not actually doing that. There is a Micron facility that is building chips that actually is producing jobs in New York State significantly. It's near Syracuse. But the data centers are not. The other thing that is catching, and it's becoming sort of politically okay to say, and that is advanced nuclear. There's nothing really advanced about nuclear except that it's you know, they have some issues that they, you know, can say that it's carbon free. The problem is you have nuclear waste, and that is never going away, and it will be hundreds of thousands of years before that will degrade, if it ever does. And so I have a bill to establish a moratorium on nuclear facilities so that we can actually study it, do a comprehensive review of what are the costs, what are the benefits, what are the, how is it going to compete or not compete with other energy that can be brought online much more quickly. Nuclear takes at least 10 years to build. It's very expensive. They did an RFI about last year, and we had to foil it because they don't share anything. And one of the companies that had submitted an expression of interest even said in its proposal that they should expect at least 100% cost overruns, if not more. So that's the industry standard, is whatever it is they tell you it's going to cost, they all know it's going to cost much more. It was about 4 times the cost in Georgia, which is the only nuclear facility built in the United States in the last 30 years. And the increase in ratepayers' costs was tremendous. So that is an issue, and I think it needs to be studied, and I think we need to sort of not make any steps that are going to commit us to a particular facility or building a facility until we actually have that information. So if we're going to make a decision, it should be informed. We had a great time at our older adult resource fair here, which was at St. Francis not long ago. I just want to remind people there is a National Night Out every year in August. It's the first Tuesday in August. It will be happening again this year. It's a national event. Every precinct in New York City has an event to reacquaint people with their police department, and so I go to all 4 of them on National Night Out. So that's what's coming up. Now, in terms of campaign, obviously, we are campaigning, and we will be campaigning this weekend, of course. We've been handing out flyers at subway stops. Thank you to those of you who have done that. We will also be doing that on Monday night. In particular, I want to hit subways to remind people that the next day is Election Day. As you know, early voting is ongoing now, and then there is no early voting on Monday because they need to revamp those machines and whatnot, and we'll have Election Day on Tuesday. So thank you very much to those of you who have already participated, and anybody who can. Please let us know. I should have gotten an email from my volunteer team. I have with me some posters. I have some small amount of palm cards, but we can get you those. We have more. And also tote bags, which are, I will show you, they're really very cool.
They look like this.
Nice and roomy. Joanne Simon, Assembly Member, State Assembly Member. And on the back, it says, Brooklyn loves healthcare for all, universal child care, LGBTQ rights, literacy for all. So, anyway, so that is the tote bag. So we have those tote bags. You can carry the campaign materials with you. Yes, but also, you know, it's usable even if it's not political, because it doesn't say Joanne for Assembly. Poll sites in. Well, I can't tell you what the schedule is, who's at what poll site right now, right? But we do try and do poll sites earlier in the morning, right? Because that's when more people vote, really before 9. I'll be getting around to different poll sites throughout the day anyway. I often go and just thank people for working. And then in the evening. Those are the main times that we do poll sites. Some of the sites are busy all day long, and we'll have a better handle on that in terms of turnout. You know, this is not a gubernatorial year, it's not a mayoral year, it's not a presidential year. And so it's a year that there's, you know, fewer people voting. We do have a big, congressional race in this district, and so people will be coming out for that. There are a lot of people that don't seem to know that I have a primary. That's not because of my not saying so, but because other people have not campaigned, if you know what I'm saying. You know, I have an opponent that didn't send a mailing, so, but so that my concern is getting out there so people know I have a primary, right? To make sure that people have it, it's on their radar screen. Because not everybody actually votes all the time, right? We have a high voter turnout in this district pretty much all the time. It's on the high end, but obviously on those years where we don't have as much on the ballot, it's depressed, right? So we have higher years when it's presidential, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we'll have pretty decent turnout this year, but you never know. So I want people to know that I have a primary as well. So, you know, on the whole, the feedback has been good. We've been doing phone calls. We've been talking to people. A lot of people have voted already, which is good. People started voting early. And it's the first time we did it, there was very few people in the beginning, and there were many more people at the last weekend. I think that's still true, that there are more people the last weekend are going to be voting. But we've seen a pretty brisk voting, all week. Obviously, last weekend, more people coming out than during the week. But I went on Tuesday at around 11, and we had at Borough Hall about 700 votes already, and it opened at 10. So that's pretty good.
And are you doing anything after the polls close on Tuesday?
I am. Would you like to be invited?
I would like to.
So we will be at the Someday Bar after the polls close. They do have a TV, and they do have New York One, which is really the primary requirement. And they're a very welcoming place, and we've done things there before as well. So someday, you've been there. Yeah, it's on Atlantic Avenue.
It's basically Joanne's phone.
So. Yes. Yeah, and a lot of people have had events there. So people are been familiar with that. So anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am?
So you alluded to this by the limited number of days at the end of session.
Yes.
Doing things, is there any traction about doing something about the nonsense of taking
About the what?
months about the budget? Like, is there anything that can be done legislatively to get the budget to be not scooping up so much time afterwards?
You know, there are people who, repeat the question, is there something we can do legislatively to not have the budget be so much delayed because of, depending on who you talk to, it's either our fault or it's her fault. We think it's her fault, she thinks it's our fault, whatever. But it's not an unusual thing. Governors do that all the time. Joan can tell you about the August budget. In our Constitution, we have a very executive-centric Constitution. And that means that, under Silver versus Pataki, we can say yes, we can say no, or we can try and make things better. And so all of what we do is try and have a budget that better reflects the priorities of New Yorkers, that the legislature, who is closer to the people than the governor, addresses those issues. And, we were able to make a lot of progress. We didn't make progress on climate, right? As you know, there was a rollback. They're trying to spin it as, it's more opportunities, but actually, the fact is they got sued because they didn't issue the regulations on time. They could have just issued the regulations. They could have issued regulations and resolved the suit. But, so that, it's one of the issues that goes to what are we doing? What are we requiring by when? The data centers, the school buses. Some people a lot of the environmental people are unhappy that we gave the electric school buses, another 5 years to comply. The main reason for that was supply chain, right? There aren't enough electric school buses, and they can't make enough to comply in time. So there was some additional time given to them. Didn't change their obligation, it just gave them more time. And that was a very practical thing that was related to that. But you see, that's why we did the data moratorium, became more important, right? We did provide, support for people, for ratepayers. They will be getting checks. But also, we have created a new position that we're going to be having be more almost like a consumer advocate with the Public Service Commission. We had a bill for that. The governor vetoed it. My colleague Jeff Dinowitz had it. And then we did something that was virtually the same thing this year in the budget. So that will happen. And we're looking at a lot of other things. But that's also part of the nuclear thing. Like, if you remember, there was a memo from NYSERDA about cap and invest. It was kind of a doomsday scenario about all the things that could possibly go wrong. But it didn't really have much of a methodology. We were told we would get that information. We never got it. And so it wasn't real, right? It was really painting what could possibly go wrong. It is now being used by people who don't like solar, which has nothing to do with solar. It was about cap and invest for fossil fuels. Solar is not fossil fuel, right? So, it's all just says you have to be careful about the consequences of some of the things you do, whether intended or unintended, right? Because there's always the unintended consequences that can be, that can rise up and bite you in the rear end. And that's also part of what really spurred us to create the bill for the nuclear moratorium, because they've indicated that they think there's room to build a 1 gigawatt of nuclear. Nobody wants it in their area. They're making a big labor argument, but in fact, everybody who's currently working at a nuclear facility can work in renewables as well, right? They don't have to work in nuclear facility. So whether they do that or not, they've issued like an RFP just recently, and we'll see how that goes. They're going to be getting probably responses sometime in the fall. But there's no reason why we can't have a moratorium so that we can study better, have a better sense, and then that would guide those people who are proposing it how to do it in a way that serves New Yorkers best. So, any other questions, ma'am?
Healthcare?
He's getting you a microphone.
On healthcare, did you get anything passed on healthcare?
Well, we didn't pass a separate bill, but we did do a lot of there was a lot in addressing the issues of healthcare in the budget. We did not cover that group of people, as about 460,000 people that are going to lose healthcare under the Essential Plan July 1st, right? We had a bill for that. We were fighting hard for that. We weren't able to get them. We were able to get people at the lower rungs, right, of below the poverty line, right? Because this is people who are the 1.5 the poverty line to 2, right? And get them health care in the budget. And we were able to make a number of provisions in the budget that related to health, but we didn't do anything dramatic, right? We didn't do anything like New York Health Act, right? As you may know, there's a lot of energy around that. That is something that really, when push comes to shove, even if we pass the New York Health Act, the governor has to sign it, right? And so it hasn't gotten far, but we do have new data and additional studies that are showing that, in fact, the costs that were anticipated in the transition, right? And there will be a period of transition if you go from like employer-based, insurance companies providing health insurance to the New York Health Act. There is a time where there's significant transition. But the issue about whether or not that would end up costing and how much, because there would be a cost in that transition, is now, the data is suggesting that, in fact, it wouldn't. And so that just came out, that data came out just before the end of session. So there really wasn't time to sort of build that consensus towards that and get that information out on a broader scale. But I know people who are with the New York Health Act Coalition are going to be working very hard on that with us as well going forward.
I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about what I think is a really important piece of legislation that introduces more protections for election workers that I believe you are signed on to, and just generally your thoughts on the importance of more anti-doxing legislation, ways that New York State can be doing everything possible to ensure that the elections in November are safe and fair.
Well, we passed legislation that, for example, would protect kids online and things like that, right? So we have done that kind of legislation. That bill didn't pass. I don't know, I can't tell you because it's not my bill, so I don't really know what the dynamics are around that. And it may have been not enough support, or we just weren't able to get it to the floor. There's always something that we run out of time for. So this year, one of the things I tried to get done was my bill that would allow us to import insulin from Canada, which would be the primary country, right? It was on the floor, ready for a vote, and they pulled it at 2:30 in the morning because there was a debate on, I think it was the Climate Superfund bill that went on and on and on, and we had to do other stuff, and so it got pulled, right? And so when it came time to, that's going to be debated, they're pulling things that were going to be debated. So I was able to get the competency restoration bills done because I approached the Republicans and said, what's your issue with this bill? Here's the answers. This actually, a lot of the counties, right, and most of the counties in New York are red, wanted it. And so they were able to agree to put it, after laying it aside, they agreed to put it on the consent calendar. And so, I was able to do that with 3 bills. One is also to make the marshals upload digitally to the state's court site when there's an order of eviction. So, because what happens is, if there's an order of eviction issued and the judge just has it served by mail, by the time people get it, they've lost time to try and find housing and pack up and move, right? So some of the marshals upload it right away, but a lot of them didn't because there wasn't a time frame that made them. So we now make them do it in 24 hours. And that was another one that I was able to get them to take from a debate calendar onto consent. So that's what I was trying to do to get some bills passed. But some bills, they're just not going to not debate, right? My Litch bill, I didn't get passed this year. I've passed it a bazillion times before because they always debate the bill. Right, and they'll spend 40 minutes asking me why it is we have to protect hospitals from closing. It's the same question every year. What happens if they're losing money? Well, that's why they're closing, right? So, that kind of thing. So that's an important dynamic, especially we had to debate certain things that we knew we had to debate. Tier 6, we did a lot of changes to Tier 6 to improve the benefits, right? The access to retirement from people who were joined the state workforce after, I think it was 2013. Right, Joan? It was 2013. So it was before I arrived, but that was part of a budget deal, and people got less access. And it's made it hard for us to keep workers, and it made it hard for us to hire people because their pension benefits were lousy. And so now we were able to work on that, and we were able to streamline it so that certain groups who had particular issues with Tier 6 and other groups of workers who had other issues with Tier 6, we were able to address those issues.
Thank you, and I appreciate everything you're doing. I certainly hope that this continues to be something that, sorry, I was just going to say, I appreciate everything you're doing. I certainly hope that more protections for election workers is something that can continue to be pushed for in the next legislative session. As you know, I do a lot of work on that in my day job. We're continuing to push for that in New York and other states. And again, appreciate all the work you're already doing.
It hasn't been a big issue in this district, but it is an issue in other parts.
In the state, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's also crazy stuff that they do, right? That isn't even a worker protection issue. My brother-in-law is a coordinator in Poughkeepsie, and he called me and said, there's a lady here who is selling cosmetics in the poll site. I swear to God. And another one who was giving out flyers for her son's restaurant. So I called the commissioner, right, in that county. I called a colleague and said, who's the commissioner in this county? And got them to, that person is no longer selling cosmetics. But that's not dangerous, but wacky. Who would do that? Or who would think that this would be even remotely appropriate, right? So training is a big thing that we are not doing well enough with a lot of election workers in a lot of counties. And in some counties, we have maybe a person and a half staff. And we have some really tiny counties with very few voters, and they don't have the staff or the funding to do a lot of training. But that's a big issue we have to address as well.
Well, thank you again for your support.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
You did mention that there were some Tier 6 reforms in this budget. My reading on them was that certain industries got favored a little bit more. I know teachers did very well in this budget, but Tier 6 covers a lot of people. And I was just curious if there's going to be more work on Tier 6 going forward, because it is terrible compared to the other tiers that are out there. So I just want to know, do you think there's an appetite for that going forward, or do you think that we've kind of done as much as we can?
So let me explain. One of the problems with any kind of retirement plan is that once you make a change, it's very hard to unchange it because it's very, very complicated. Now, the teachers wanted to retire earlier. They didn't care about the contributions. The other groups wanted to change the contribution limits, right? And so that's what they got, was the changes in contribution limits. And it's because that's what their priorities were. And, you might have had a different view of that, but, the way this went was we were talking with various groups, and as you said, state workers are a tremendous variety in what they do. And many of the county workers, too, right? There are people who are public employees that are Tier 6, but they're not state employees, they're county employees, for example. And so there's a mix with the counties and who's paying what kind of thing. So it's very, very complicated. And this was the best we could come up with at this point. It doesn't preclude some other change happening, but this was, it took a long time to work this out. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Joanne. Well, we'll have to get those bags from you at the end of the meeting. All right, so Andrew, do you want to come up? Okay, yeah. Joanne just talked about session, but you can give us your perspective. Like your summer suit.
It's hot. That's why I wore it, Jason. I was looking for the applause. It's hot. It's hot. We just had I just came from my senior prom. You know, we do a bunch of senior proms, and every year the senior citizens, yeah, with the middle school students chaperoning, so there's no hanky panky going on the dance floor. And every year there's a gentleman who comes in. He just kills it every single year. It's like I had to keep one-upping, trying to catch up with him. I did not succeed this year yet again. Anyway, hello everyone. Great to be back here in person with you all. I know the last few times I've been virtual. Great to see you all. It was, as I'm sure you all know, kind of a slog of the last 6 months, as I'm sure Joanne just finished expressing. Really frustrating for so many reasons. We can talk about all the frustrations about session and about the things that we were fighting over that we shouldn't have had to be fighting over. Particularly on climate, you know, I don't think anyone here is going to see their auto insurance rates drop by $1,000 tomorrow, you know, and if you do, I'll eat your hat. I mean, I'll do something, whatever. It's not going to happen. But we were fighting on things that really we as Democrats should not be fighting over, and it was really unfortunate. So I'll set all that aside, and I'm happy to answer questions if people want to talk about that. I'll highlight there were a couple of, gems, I think, that I was happy that we ended the session with. A couple of my bills that got passed, a couple of things I've been working on that got through, that I'm really, really excited about. And so first, I'll start with what was in the budget. I had two big pieces of legislation in the budget. The first, some of you heard me talk about this before, has been the Stop Superspeeders Act, which would crack down on recidivist reckless drivers, the worst 1% drivers in our city. The budget authorization gives the city of New York the ability to implement a super speeder program in the future. There are a bunch of strings attached to it. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but the big win here is that we actually got it enacted into statute. We have a lot of work to do now with the city council and the mayor's administration and DOT and the police department to actually put the contours of the program together so that we can make it as strong as possible. And just like with speed cameras, speed cameras started, we fought for 20 for a pilot program. It was in 2013. I was at the very first rally in front of Marty Golden's office about that, right? And over time, we built them, we expanded, and we improved. And so it's my hope that with the super speeders bill, we can do the same. The second big win that came out of the budget was work around child safety online. And I had proposed a law called the Stop Online Predators Act. What this is about targeting online platforms like Roblox and Fortnite and other things where kids are spending hours and hours and hours on their time. And the privacy protections on these platforms are so weak. Roblox has been called a cesspool for child predators. When I was growing up, it was like, don't talk to the stranger in the playground, right? That's not a thing anymore. I mean, it is, but not as much anymore. Now it's like, don't talk to a stranger on the internet. But on the internet, you don't know who's who. And you don't know if it's an adult posing as a child. You don't know if it's an adult posing as an adult, but like giving you, digital currency so you can buy, things on the games and trying to curry favor and groom you and all these things. And so the enacted budget includes what we call the Safe by Design Act, which was 96% of what I had proposed. The governor wanted to give it a different name. Basically, it requires these platforms to have privacy by default for minor users. What that means is that an adult can't search for a profile of a kid under the age of 18. Can't message a kid, can't send a kid a DM, that they're not otherwise connected to on these platforms. Can't send them financial transactions, things like that. And it gives parents the ability to approve friend requests for kids under a certain age as well. Why is this important? On Roblox, for example, even though all these apps say they're not meant for kids under 13, it's a fact that 40% of the users on Roblox are under the age of 13. Some of you may have kids who are on Roblox. Be very, very careful. Right? That's probably the worst of the worst. But that's been enacted, and that goes into effect next year. Really excited about that. This builds upon the work we did 2 years ago with the Safer Kids Act around social media algorithms and the school cell phone ban, other things in the digital online space for kids. So I'm glad that was a win. Outside of the budget, a couple of good things. Number one was the Stop Deepfakes Act. This is about AI-generated video and photos. And it's really, really simple. Like, everyone's being duped by these things. There was an article in the Times this week about the world's expert on deepfakes no longer being able to tell the difference because AI has gotten so good. We're never going to be able to stop everything, but what this law does, it says that whenever a file is made or created, right? If you take a digital photo and you right-click it and you click on the properties, it'll tell you the metadata, which user created it, when it was created, what type of file it is, right? It tells you how big the file is, right? It's all that metadata. When you manipulate a photo using an AI tool or a video, it carries the same data with it. So what we require with this law is to say that an online platform, like if you're going to post the manipulated photo on Facebook, Facebook cannot strip that metadata off of the file so that you as a user can then right-click and say, oh, I see, I see Jason Shelley at 2 o'clock in the morning, change this photo. This must not be real, right? And then or at least you have enough indicia to say, this is not a real photo. This is a manipulated photo. How it was manipulated, we don't know, but at least it's not an authentic photo or video, et cetera. So this is based on kind of an evolving standard that the tech industry has kind of coalesced around globally. They've been trying to get this adopted across many jurisdictions. This is actually a good thing that tech wants us to do. California passed the law. We now passed this law. It's an evolving standard in Europe as well. And so I think this will help us be able to sift through what's real or not real, at least at this stage. And obviously it won't be perfect, but it's a really, really good start. And the last thing I'll highlight that we passed this in the Senate early on this year and last year. And then it got through the Assembly on the very last day, so I was very happy. Actually, I have two things. And this was my bill around expanding protections for people who are victims of digital stalking and harassment. The laws have been very, very weak around giving people protection. Right now, your only recourse, unless you have a familial or an intimate partner relationship with someone, you have to call the police every time someone's stalking you or harassing you. And some people don't want to call the police. Other times, the police won't take it seriously. No recourse. And I literally spoke to a woman who went on a date with a guy twice, met him on an online app, wasn't feeling it. She had to travel for work across the country for a work convention. She used that as a reason to say, look, it's not a good time for me. I had to go. I'm busy. I had to go to this convention, whatever. Maybe I'll see you when I get back. He flew across the country and hey, what are you doing here in Los Angeles? Oh, I didn't know you were going to, literally that type of behavior. No recourse in law. So we passed the CREEP Act, and we're hopeful that the governor will sign that into law this year. And then the last thing, again, in the children's safety space and the AI space, you may or may not know, but AI companies are partnering with toy companies to put chatbots in toys. What does that mean? That means your Barbie doll that you used to talk to and pretend they talk back to you can now actually talk to you in real time. Your teddy bear, it's like Teddy Rumpskid, right? Or, your teddy bear can actually engage with, this is what they're trying to do. OpenAI and Mattel have a partnership. There are toys all over the shelves now that have AI chatbots in them. This is terrifying. These toys have no place on our shelves. They have no place in kids' playrooms, particularly for younger kids, right? Maybe an older kid, there's an argument to be made that there's something there for it, but I don't want my 3-year-old playing with a Paw Patrol chatbot toy. Are you kidding me? So we put in place a 5-year moratorium on the sale of these toys so that we can do some deeper study as to what this means for kids. We kind of know what we're going to see from this. It's not going to be good, but it's the first step to trying to force the industry to just give this up because this is terrifying stuff. It's right out of the Twilight Zone, this crap. And so hopefully the governor will sign that as well. I'll stop there. I can go on and on, as you all know, because I usually do. And I'm happy to take any questions about anything and everything. Yes.
You didn't mention another bill of yours that passed, and that was the time extender.
Oh, yeah.
In case.
I tried to give you the highlights.
Yeah, I know, but voting, care about that. So, is there anything that can be done to convince the governor to sign that prior to the general election in November? Because that's really the key time for that.
Yeah. So we passed a bill this year. Right now, if there's a disruption at a poll site during an election, the local board of elections has to affirmatively vote to decide to then seek an extension of that time limit, right? And they'll have the discretion to say, oh, it was a de minimis, if no one was in the poll site when this happened, no one was affected or not, and whatever they say is the basis at which it goes by. And if they get it wrong, then an interested party has to then go back to court and try to extend the time to a judge. It's very convoluted and complicated. So we changed the law to say the presumption should be if any delay is greater than an hour, the presumption should be to extend it, right? A bomb threat gets called into a polling location and they clear it out for an hour, 2 hours, right? Automatically extend the hours, those 1 or 2 hours. There's a major flooding in the polling site and half the machines, you can't access them, extend it. In Orange County, some of the machines weren't working for like 3 hours a couple years ago, automatically extend it. Seems really simple. It's gotten a lot of pushback, as you can imagine, a lot of pushback. We're going to try to get it in front of the governor. I have a meeting with the governor's office next week about a few things, and so this is one that I'm going to bring up to them, and we'll see. We'll see. And you're right, it's a big concern for November. Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Between now and when she's signing the majority of these bills or vetoing them towards the end of the year, how often are you talking? How is that communication, and what's that process like for you for getting your bills passed or signed?
We reach out to them all the time whenever we have things we want to put in front of them, whether it's legislative or otherwise, right? And they are pretty responsive. This time they asked to meet with me to go over my legislative priorities, just like to go over, I presume they have some questions about some bills. They're trying to get a head start. Last year, we passed like 900 bills last year. And, should they be doing it all along? Yes, but, things get complicated and they have a small staff and they end up waiting to the last minute and then you don't get a chance to actually dive into the details of a bill. It's actually a couple years ago, she vetoed the first version of my freelancers and free law. And when we met with them after the veto, within the new session, we said, so what was the objection? They said, well, we didn't understand this and we didn't have time to call you. It's like, well, how? Happens all the time, right, Joanne? So I think this is an effort to kind of change some of that dynamic and to answer some questions in advance. It might not be where we hash out differences, but it certainly is an opportunity to take temperatures and see where everyone is. And so we try to put those issues on their radar as best we can, whenever we can. And they're usually pretty responsive. Doesn't always go my way, but it doesn't mean that they're not responsive to the outreach and the communication.
Increasingly, the Republicans are going to the governor and asking for her to read a chapter amendment.
Oh, yeah.
And they literally talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Now, maybe the governor, we'll talk to her about a chapter amendment. And that's very, very problematic from the legislative.
Yeah. Yeah. Or oftentimes, when we're doing these tech bills, industry will say, okay, well, for all of my antagonism towards many players in the big tech space, we do talk to them all the time. We talk to them, even the people we disagree with, all the time. We try to get to good places on a lot of my tech bills. The deepfakes bill that I was describing to you, we were working with industry to get the definitions right. We couldn't lock everything down. And so we said to them, we'll see you with the governor's office and we'll clean up the language at that point. So there is a give and back and forth, but when they're threatening like that and when they're doing like that, then that's just not. And that's what happened to my AI bill last year, the RAISE Act, which at the time was the strongest AI safety law in the country. We passed it, incredibly strong bill. It got gutted throughout the chapter amendment process because industry went to the governor's office really, really hard. The venture capital community came in really, really hard. What we signed was still the strongest bill in the country at the time, but from where we were to where we ended up, huge difference. So it cuts a lot of different ways. Avi.
Yeah, I commend you for everything you're doing in that space. And actually, you literally just touched on it before I was about to ask the question. I was like, what's the possible pushback in this space to protect our children, right? And I think you just talked about it. It's the industry, I guess. And
it's money.
It's money, right? Who can come up with a legitimately good excuse to have a Paw Patrol toy that's going to talk back to a 3-year-old child? That should be bipartisan support, right?
It was unanimous in the Senate, and I think it was unanimous in your chamber, Joanne. It was, because I was in the chamber for that vote. It should be common sense, but you know what they're going to say? Look, we're just trying to provide kids happiness. right? It's like the Happy Meal. Like, we just want kids to smile. And what better way for kids who have, who come from, disadvantaged homes, who maybe they don't have someone to talk to, they don't have a sibling, we're giving them a companion, we're giving them someone to talk to, we're giving them a reason to open up a new present like it's Christmas morning. Like, they literally will say these things in different words, and like you're sitting there saying, like, is this a real conversation? Like,
I mean, and then I guess
Yeah.
that's the second part of my question. Do you have bipartisan support, I would hope, for some of this stuff? I
Yeah.
mean,
almost all of my, the Safer Kids Act, which is the social media bill, passed unanimously in the Senate. It had one dissenting vote in the Assembly. The Child Data Protection Act passed unanimously in the Senate 2 years ago, one dissenting vote in the Assembly. The Chatbot Toys bill, unanimous in both chambers. The RAISE Act, which is the AI safety bill, a little different context, still incredibly important, still bipartisan, was not unanimous, but it was pretty strong bipartisan support. So it really depends. I think issues like child safety, are really, really bipartisan, and it's us versus big tech, right? It's not Democrat versus Republican, left versus right. It's us versus big tech. And that's really, honestly, that's a huge difference from what you're seeing in Congress. One of the reasons why Congress has not passed comprehensive child safety legislation for the internet since 1998 is because the coalition is split. There are Democrats who are very tech-friendly, who do big tech's bidding, and there are Democrats who don't. And there are Republicans in the same way. And so it's not the same level. And they're much more, there's a lot more money that flows at the federal level, and money talks. You don't see the same level of bipartisanship, except last year the US Senate passed 90-0, a very strong kid safety bill. And then it died in the House, again, because of that fragmented coalition. So go figure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to continue on this, you've been obviously a leader in child safety on the internet and all that, but unfortunately we're seeing that the internet's kind of becoming poisonous for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's becoming very addictive for everybody. And now with sports gambling on all of our phones, you're seeing a lot of damage to adults from these internet and data spaces. So are you considering taking this expertise that you've gained and, taking this momentum you've gained, like all these unanimous votes that you've gained, you're talked about, and maybe now expanding away from children and try and, just protect the rest of us?
So it's a really good question. First, I'll also say I did pass a bill this year around requiring age verification for more mobile sports betting sites, because we know that so many kids underage are actually creating accounts. And so that passed both chambers of the legislature as well. And it actually, the Gaming Commission was already trying to do the same thing, and so we think that we have a good chance of getting that signed so that you don't have 16 and 17-year-olds opening up accounts using their parents' credit cards and stuff like that. There are two reasons why I've been focusing on kid safety, primarily. Number one, it's very salient, it's very personal, even though my kids aren't of that age yet, it's gonna be, right? And it's, what's happening to them is a lot worse than what's happening to adults because their brains aren't developed yet, because it's having these huge impacts on their development. But secondly, from a constitutional basis, the constitutional grounds to be able to craft these laws to withstand First Amendment challenge are significantly stronger with kids than they are for adults. Because if the argument is that, and this has not been decided yet, right? So you kind of have to like forecast what the arguments are going to be when you try to challenge a law and kind of work your way backwards. The argument against regulating social media companies is that you're regulating free speech, right? And so we said we're going to focus on the algorithms. We're not going to focus on the content. Like nothing that I've worked on says you can't show, eating disorder content, even though we know that that's really bad for adolescent girls, right? I have not passed a law because that's obviously an infringement on speech, very clearly. So we said we're going to focus on the design, the algorithm. Big tech companies are making the argument in courts that the algorithm is a form of speech. If you believe that premise, we have to have an incredibly tight theory of the case to overcome that presumption that it is protected speech, right? So we have to have a concrete harm, right? And the data so far is it's been more researched about kids than adults, and it's much more solid than it is for adults. And so also from a legal basis to have these laws withstand scrutiny, strict scrutiny, we've been using kids as kind of the way in to put these protections in place. I would love nothing more to do all this. I have the Safe for All Act, which would do the same algorithm protections for everyone, but I'm not moving it because I don't think that would withstand constitutional challenge given the state of First Amendment social media law today. Way more than we thought.
I was not in favor of that ever, because I think that, because we've had many more addiction attacks.
Yeah.
And the companies will say, well, they have an algorithm for finding out who's actually betting too much and what have you. But that actually doesn't really work, and we are seeing real increases in the numbers of people who are going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And who are literally addicted.
We've gotten rid of the friction. You know, the friction used to be you had to go to a casino, walk in, go to a table, go to a machine. And that's all. Everything's right here now.
You know, the prediction apps
Yeah.
are now undoing the online betting.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation.
No. And there's someone has proposed a bill to legalize the addiction apps in New York, and that terrifies me. Yeah. Maya.
Well, yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
there
okay,
you
now
go.
it's on. Yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing on AI. First, if I could just say, in relation to why Congress isn't doing anything, because I just always want to make a plug for this, Congress also does not have a tech committee to regulate the tech industry. It desperately needs one. We have to keep pushing for that, in addition to what you're saying about why it's not doing stuff, which I completely agree with. I was wondering, the important work that you're doing on deep fakes, which sounds like some version of watermarking legislation, how is that going to help account for the threats that AI poses to election misinformation? We know that in the United States and around the world, there's a lot of misinformation spread through AI deepfakes about elections and in campaigns. I'm sure that's something that you all have thought about in relation to this. I'm wondering if you could speak a little more to that.
So it's not, my bill is not a panacea for everything in the deepfake space or the misinformation space or the disinformation space. But where I think it will be impactful is when you think about how information is broadcast out, like where are people getting their news today and their information? They're still getting it from social media sites, they're getting it from online platforms. To the extent that someone is manipulating a photo or a video to make a false photo, to make a misleading photo, right? If I had a picture of Joanne in a Spurs jersey, right, and I said, whatever, like you would be able to see that the photo was modified using this particular software by Andrew Gennardis on this date, on this time. And so the theory is you have the tools available to you to see that it was a manipulated photo and that the website couldn't strip that information. So it has to keep it with the media, right? And so that'll help, I think, in a lot of cases where a lot of the misinformation and this stuff is happening. Where it's not going to be helpful is on like audio voice recordings, fake robocalls, right? This doesn't touch that. And we have to think of other solutions for that. So again, it's not a panacea, but it's really meant to someone scrolling on their Facebook and say, oh my God, I can't believe I saw so-and-so doing this, right? And then you look at the photo, no, it was a manipulated photo, right? Or something like that. That's really what we're trying to get at. We think it'll help. I don't think it'll stop everything, but there's more work to be done here. Yeah. Is that it? Okay. Thank you all very much.
All right, great. Harry, do you want to come tell us about some Dan Goldman opportunities, things we can do to help the campaign?
Thanks so much, Julia. All right, so we're finally at the home stretch. That means you're going to see a few more days of the big Robert De Niro ad and then a little break for a while. So we have a lot of exciting Get Out the Vote events coming up. We have a very big rally on Saturday at Brooklyn Borough Hall Park at 12 p.m., which we're all invited to. We'd love to see you there with the congressman and some electeds. And it's right by the biggest turnout voting spot. So we're going to make sure that a lot of our folks are going to come do their shift. We have a wonderful table set up there. And we have poll site visibility shifts throughout the entire early voting weekend. Hal's already signed up for 2. Way to go, Hal. He was killing it last weekend as well. He's such a pro. We're so grateful for his help. And we'd love to see more of you guys there as well. It's a lot of fun. And Dan is continuing to make a big tour of every single early voting spot. We're taking no votes for granted. I can say that the turnout trends are looking favorable for us, but we can't take that for granted. We have to make sure that we're getting our voters out there too, and that's what Get Out the Vote is all about. If you're not interested in coming out in person, we have a virtual phone bank every day at 6 p.m. It's a lot of fun. There's an auto dialer, so no one can see your caller ID, which gives you that little added security. It's a lot of fun. We have a great training at the start every day until Election Day. And we also have good old-fashioned door knocking throughout the entire week and throughout all of Election Day. You'll be paired with a partner in case you're not used to minivan. Also a big shout out to the really big IND canvas we had a few weeks ago in Park Slope. Matt came, Hal, Ira, Art. It was a wonderful turnout. The congressman joined us as well, and he was so grateful for that. And just to really reiterate, we're so grateful for all your support here. This is the only political club in Brooklyn that's given us the endorsement, and that means a lot, and I really take that seriously. And we're so grateful for all your support there, and we just need your help to get over the finish line. So thank you so much.
Okay, and then, yeah, Norma, if you want to just come talk about the firm and what you guys have been up to.
Hello, my name is Norma Buster. I'm Chief of Staff at CA Goldberg. We're a law firm right over on Court Street. Carrie Goldberg is our founding attorney, and we've been in business since 2014. We represent people who are dealing with stalking, sexual assault, blackmail, and other tech-facilitated harms. We have lawsuits against XAI, Hinge, Discord, Amazon, and a bunch of other tech companies. But we've been working really closely with Senator Gennardis for the past few years on the CREEP Act, which he talked a little bit about. Move this down a little bit. So he talked a little bit about the CREEP Act, and I'll just get into it a little bit more. So our attorneys teamed up with Senator Gennardis' office to draft the first version of what would become the CREEP Act, which just passed this session. We had a client who was a journalist who started to be stalked by somebody who was reading her work, and he even crossed state lines to come to New York. She had been going to police, which she was an abolitionist, so she really felt uncomfortable with, but wasn't getting any help. And she came to us, and we realized we couldn't get her an order of protection in the state of New York, because New York is one of 7 states where, in order to get an order of protection against somebody, you have to be related to them or have had sex with them. 43 other states are up to date on this. And so we, over the years, we just kept having to turn people away and tell them, we're sorry, we can't help you because of this gap in the law. And so what the CREEP Act does is it creates a new anti-stalking order in civil court. This is a diversion bill. So the whole point is that survivors of stalking, or victims of stalking, I should say, because this is where a victim is actively being stalked, seeking safety, seeking help. Right now, they have to go to police if they're being stalked by a coworker, a former friend, a follower online, or even a complete stranger. And what we know is that, one, the relationship that a person has with their stalker really doesn't matter. Stalking terrorizes people's lives and often results in irreparable harm, including murder. And 2, orders of protections work. They're really effective in getting a stalker to stop their conduct. And so we brought on a legislative analyst, Jen-Hong Shi, who began this campaign 2 years ago to get the CREEP Act passed. And it passed unanimously through the Senate 2 years in a row, and this year it finally got passed through the Assembly. And so now we wait for the governor to sign it. There's been a little bit of opposition from public defenders who say that victims should just go through police, which doesn't really make much sense, especially when we're talking about undocumented people who are being stalked, or Black or brown individuals who face over-incarceration and are afraid of going to police, in addition to many other reasons why people may not want to go. The other thing I'll mention is that with stalking nowadays, there is no divide between online and offline anymore. Stalking involves technology. And this is not just, this is on various levels, so we are on, a lot of us are on social media. We get exposed to people who never would have seen or heard of us before. So, it brings us to new people, right? Then it gives people this sense of parasocial relationship where they feel they know somebody better than they actually do because they follow them on social media. And then they have the tools, the technology to find as much information about their victim as possible. And then using technology to terrorize a person, to send nonstop unwanted messages to find people's family members, to go to their place of employment and so forth. And so we really, really hope that the governor passes it or signs it into law this year, and that she does it sooner rather than later, because every day that we don't have the CREEP Act passed is another day where New Yorkers are in danger, because any one of us, if you haven't before, I've been victim of a stalker, and an order of protection was what helped me 11 years ago, and it can happen to any one of us in this room. And so we really just want this for the safety of all New Yorkers.
Thank you. Well, I guess we'll have a short meeting today. Joan, and you?
Yeah.
Okay. You first and then Joan.
I just wanted to give everyone an update on the Jazz Brunch this year, because Karen can't be here, and who has done an excellent job in organizing that, as she has every year. So thank you, Karen, in absentia. But this year's Jazz Brunch is going to be on Saturday, September 19th at Luana's again. Those of you who were there last year know what an excellent event we had last year. Tish James came, Tom DiNapoli came. It was a veritable who's who of New York politicos coming by to support us. So we're just going to run it back. So join us September 19th, Saturday this year, at Luana's Tavern. I think we're doing 11 o'clock. But yeah, this should be a, and you tell one friend and they tell one friend and everyone there, just let them know if they want to meet the most powerful people in New York, you got to come hang out with IND people. But we're going to have a good time. There's always good food. We have good music. So everyone, please put on your calendar, September 19th, Luana's. Steve.
Matt, I have a suggestion, and I know that
Yeah.
Steve, can you speak up a little? I'm sorry. I have a suggestion. I don't need the mic. Hold on. I got enough balls. Suggestion with the Jazz Brunch. It is a fundraiser. It is. And again, our expenses are relatively low for a political club. My suggestion has always been that at this brunch, what we can do, and what I think we should do is, it should be a limit on drinks. We pay a big bar bill. It should be, you come in, you pay your $150, you get a ticket. I've been to a million fundraisers like this, and you get a drink. I mean, to me, it just seems to be more reasonable and easier way to raise money, because the bar bill becomes expensive.
Cheryl saying.
Okay. I will summarize what Steve just said. I will summarize it. Steve.
Was not clear.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to summarize what Steve just said. Steve made the suggestion that we should put a limit on the booze as a way to help maximize the fundraising here, and that instead of it being unlimited drinks, you show up and you get some tickets. That is definitely something that I'll pass on to Karen and the committee. I don't know that that's what Steve was making. Yeah.
I think it's something, I think we should give the committee a lot of deference.
Yeah.
Because you
But
do work hard.
yeah.
You kind of make these decisions. I mean, I suggested this once before. I know that Karen was opposed.
As someone who's on the committee, Steve, I will make sure that your point of view on this one is definitely, yeah, and Julia has agreement, but I will make sure the committee knows. This year we have some very good.
11 a.m., one drink.
Yeah. This year we have some good honorees this year. We're going to be giving our Community Service Award to Nydia Velasquez, who is extraordinarily well-deserving as a thank you for all of her, everything she's done for Brooklyn in her career. We'll be honoring the Heights players for everything they've done in the community. And probably someone else who may be sitting in the back if she agrees. And it's not Joan, no. But yeah, it's going to be a great event, regardless of how many drinks are available to everyone. So I just hope everyone comes by and has a lot of fun this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
The reason we not only use the mic is because we have people on Zoom, and if it's not on the mic, then they have no idea what we're talking about. So just a brief report. We finished petitioning successfully, and our total bill for petitioning costs was $1,800. We petitioned for 8 people this time. Remember, we did not have congressional candidates on our petitions because we endorsed after petitioning started. So in dividing, Steve and I worked out a plan, and so far we've had 2 checks have come in. Vicki reported to me before she left. She's out of town right now. 2 are on their way. The rest are coming. And it total cost for IND is $16.12. Because we couldn't figure out how to do $16.12 with 8 people. So we ate that cost. So, and the other little thing that's kind of related is we're still looking for county committee people. So if you have a neighbor who's a Democrat, please let me know, get their name and phone number, and I'll call them if they have questions. I'm more than willing to explain to them what their commitment is. It's 2 years. You have to be a loyal Democrat and live in the 52nd. And if you can fog up a mirror, you qualify. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing because I know that in August we have our judicial convention, and it's a couple months away, but we like to have a big turnout. We like the 52nd to have the biggest turnout. So think about that. It's generally, no date is set yet. It's generally like the first or second week of August, and we arrange to get people there. I drive people there. So please keep that in mind, everybody. Yes?
When will we know when?
Oh, Joe knows that. Joe. Yeah, I'll take the baby seat out of my car to get more space, okay?
I can say one thing, it is definitely by statute between August 6th and August 12th. So that's on our calendar right now.
Hopefully we can get some people out on Tuesday or over the weekend to do some poll site shifts. Yes, Joan has one more thing to say.
Harry, Joanne told us where she's going to be on primary night. Where's Dan going?
Ooh, good question. Joan asked, where is Dan going to be on primary night?
It'll be finalized tomorrow. Chris is fighting with the caterer.
Okay. It'll be finalized tomorrow. Fights have been going on with the caterer. So you will text me and I will send a blast email. Okay, great. Or Matt will send the blast email. And all right, so if anyone wants to volunteer over the weekend, please reach out to Joanne or Harry, or if you wanna, Alyssa told me that she'll be doing some poll sites on Tuesday. Maya and I are gonna go help Joanne and maybe Janice Purvis, one of the judge candidates. So yeah, let us know. And thank you so much for coming tonight. And thank you to all our speakers. Yes. Okay, great. I got, all right. Can we have a vote on adjourning? Everyone in favor? Okay. Thank you.